Fantastic. So welcome to Silver Tent TV and our Love Made Manifest interview with the incredibly inspiring Debbie Mansberger. Now, Debbie is the owner and founder of the 100-Year Oak Homestead and Mastering Love Rescue and Sanctuary. Did I get that right, Debbie?
Yes. Hello, Silver Tent.
I've been practicing that for hours today. Like, what's it called? What's it called? And so just for those of you who are watching, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the recording, Debbie's been inspiring so many of us over the last few months that she's been in the Silver Tent and in Silver Synergy with her stories about following her heart, come what may, to create this homestead and this rescue center and sanctuary. And she's told us about some of the challenges that she's had, but she's also told us about some of those incredible synchronistic magic moments that have occurred. And so that's really what I want to explore with Debbie. I would love her to, first of all, inspire us to follow our hearts, come what may. And also potentially to inspire you to support her projects, because you'll find out why she vitally needs our support. So I'm glad to hear that the echo has gone and we're recording and we're live in Facebook in the Silver Tent. So Debbie, welcome to the interview. And yes, how are you today?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored, and it's a blessing to be here.
Brilliant. Now, I forgot to let everybody know that you're based in Georgia in the USA. And what I'd love to ask, because I don't think I've heard this story before, is when did you first know that you wanted to set up a homestead and a rescue center?
So in 2015, I started thinking that it was time for me to follow a dream that maybe I had that I didn't even know what that was exactly. I had spent a lot of time making sure everyone else's dreams were taken care of, that I put my own on the back burner and didn't even know what they were. I started participating in a spiritual formation center and just spent a lot of time exploring and beginning to visualize what this dream may be, what it looked like. And it became a little farm, a little homestead. I grew up in the suburbs of Long Island. I never had a chicken or a goat or lots of dogs or lots of cats. And, you know, as an adult, I had a garden, but not, you know, sustaining. And in January of 2017, I let my family know that my husband and I would be moving. I thought maybe he might not want to move, but he came along for the ride. And I didn't know where that was going to be. And we began the search for a property that could have been anywhere. And in my search, this little cabin kept showing up. And we had come to Georgia on another reason. And we had some time in our hands, and the little ad said, hey, come on over and check us out. And so we did. And it still wasn't exactly what I wanted, because I wanted more land. And the builder here said, well, we have that cabin up there too. Maybe we could make a package deal. And so this little cabin that I had watched for 6 months come up continuously in my searches ended up being the place that we now call home.
Wow. So you just left your home and drove, not knowing really where you were going and what you were going to find?
Well, we had come here at the end of March, early April to see it, and down here visiting again for another reason. And June 1st, we moved here, and it was that quick. And it's been quite an adventure since then.
And so then what happened? I mean, what was on the land
So
that you bought? The
yeah, so
cabin, but
on the land was the one big cabin that we could live in, and another cabin that was being built, which was the one that kept coming up in my searches, which we'll soon be living in and using the big cabin as a retreat house slash Airbnb. And there was not really anything here at all, except a lot of land with a lot of brush and a lot of work to be done. A year in May of 2018, I got my first goats, and that's when everything began to change. In my visualizations, in my manifestations of this place, goats were a part of it. Again, I never had a goat. I didn't know. Yeah, they're cute, but I didn't know. I just know that there were goats in that dream. And we are now well supplied with goats.
how many goats do you have altogether now?
So we have about 20. And we also have the 4 rescue goats that are separate from our personal herd, but part of the homestead nonetheless.
Wow. So you'd had this visualization, you could see the homestead. Did you know at that point it was going to be a rescue center and sanctuary as well? Or did you just get the sense that you were going to create somewhere sustainable to live? Is that what you were planning on?
Yeah, originally there was going to be that was sort of the plan. The rescue was sort of one of those things, the universe, God, the God of my understanding, whatever you call it, threw this at me. This was not, I mean, we all said, oh, if I won the lottery, if I could, I would do these things. And I was just like everybody else. There was a need here in Northwest Georgia, in this county, where there's no animal ordinances, where animals don't have a lot of protective rights, which are oftentimes left to the states here in the United States. And I thought, well, you know what? I have a little space. Let me rescue these couple of kittens and find them a home. And before I knew it, my porch was filled with crates and kittens. And then I had to buy a little building, and that soon became filled with cats and kittens as well. And I saw a need, and I had time and I had some space. It was something that I could do, a small part that I could do, and I had no idea what I was doing. Everything from the goats to the chickens to having a rescue, which is more than just, oh, look, I rescued this little kitty, look how cute. It's a lot of work, a lot of research. I had to, on the job training. It was learning a lot, and some were great joys and some were great sorrows. And rescue's hard sometimes. Having 60 plus animals on a property, things happen. It's the natural order. but there was a time where I thought that I might have to give up the rescue, maybe even the homestead, but a lot of outside, especially from, people close to me, thought, oh, maybe this is too much. Maybe you bit off more than you could chew. And maybe I did. But along that introspection, I knew that I would not give up the rescue. I could give up a lot of things, but I was not going to give up the rescue. And there's a purpose for me there. And it's that thing where, you just can't quite explain it. You just know that you're compelled. And I think a lot of us have that sense of, I want to do this, and I'm going to wait till this time, and I'm going to wait till that time. I'm going to wait for this to be right. And that time never really comes. It's been risky. It's been scary. There's times where I've been in a heap on the floor in tears, thinking I failed these animals. How can I possibly do this? I don't have the resources. I don't have the experience. Who do I think I am to try and do this mastering love rescue and create a retreat house at the same time? But that's what I'm doing.
I'm sure there are people that are thinking like, wouldn't you just like to retire rather than like take on probably much more than you've ever taken on before, by the sounds of it?
And I've considered that. I have, and I don't know. It's just not me. I think maybe for a lot of us, especially women over 50, this becomes the time where we can maybe do something that we had only dreamed of, and that didn't seem feasible at that time. I have more time. I have some more resources. Maybe this is the time for me to share what this last almost 62 years has taught me.
Wow. I'm just thinking about how fascinating it is that what appears to be your calling is something that you've had no experience of whatsoever. Like not even cats or dogs as a child, and suddenly thrust into this space where, I guess, do you just sometimes wake up in the morning and another animal has been put on your doorstep or something?
No, but I wake up every day with a phone call, with a message, every day. And it's hard, it gets hard when we're full. Our supporters have been very generous, helping us. However, there's not quite enough.
Yeah.
Right. there could be a skipping leaf going by.
A skipping leaf. What is a skipping leaf?
A skipping, just a leaf blowing by.
I see.
It's everybody going.
So I've still got this like picture in my head that you went there with the idea that you were going to create this homestead for sustainable living. Yeah.
Yes.
And now you have a rescue center and a sanctuary. You have the time and resources to put any energy into the homestead itself and growing your own food and whatever plans you had for that sustainable aspect?
We are. Hey, people. Sorry. Real life on the homestead. Yes, that we're getting to the point where we're getting some volunteers, we're getting some help. It's just been us, and that's been tough. We're super close, and being sustainable certainly is on the order for even this fall, and even just filling our freezer and canning jars with our local farmers' goods. There's been talk of meat on the farm, but I'm just not there yet, and I don't have a problem with anybody eating meat, and but it's not something necessarily I want to participate in, and so we just haven't gotten to that place yet. I can say you spend enough time with the animals, you start looking at them differently, and you start looking at the food that you're putting into your body a little bit differently. It's again not something that I realized would unfold that way for me, but it has. The animals, whether rescue or my herd, has taught me more about this part of life that humans have sort of taken themselves out of, that we forget that we're mammals. And when the bear's mauling me, I'm pretty sure he doesn't think I'm superior to him. So I realize that I really am connected to the space, the animals, the earth. It's more than just, oh, let's go have a homestead. It really is about coming back to what I believe a lot of humans are missing in their daily life today.
Well, there does seem to be a lot of people that want to get back to nature, want to be, and it might be in some cases a romantic notion. I mean, you're living the reality of that notion, aren't you? But before maybe we explore that, I'd love to ask you what prompted you to call your sanctuary Mastering Love?
So I had my own herd of goats, was going through a lot of learning. Like I said, I had never touched a goat. Now I'm up in their business delivering babies, which is, always sometimes stressful and joyful and, scary, all those things. But we had a little goat born here named Jericho, and he struggled from the beginning. And on a lot of other farms, that animal would be culled, dispatched, gotten rid of. One, because there's no time necessarily to focus on just one animal that way. And that's not how it is here. So I had a lot of friends that were following Jericho's story, and it was a roller coaster ride. There were days where, oh my gosh, look, it's a miracle. And then the next day you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And Jericho finally passed away, and he started to have seizures, and I spent a morning holding him. I was home alone. I called my husband, said, you need to get back here. And I knew that it was time. I knew that it was time. I didn't want him to have to suffer any. That was the first time, and I wasn't going to have him suffer anymore. He had been to the vet several times. We were doing everything we could. And when I went to the vet to have him euthanized, and I've done both euthanization and animal hospice, when the vet went to give him the shot, he kind of started fighting, and I wanted to tell him to stop. Like, look, he's still fighting. He's still fighting. And I had to kind of check myself, and I knew that it was my own heart not wanting to let him go, and I knew that I had to. And I shared that with with my friends and the people that were following his story. And a friend of mine from high school reached out to me and said, "You're mastering love." And I was so moved by that. And for a couple of weeks, like it was my mantra. It was, everything to keep me going and mastering love. And one day I said, that would be a great name for a rescue. And lo and behold, about 7 months later, I was having my announcement of, hey, I have a rescue called Mastering Love. So that's how Mastering Love came about.
That's such a touching story, and I really hope that everybody watching is having the same response that I am, because I'm really in awe. And I think of the lives that many of us live in. I'm not in a city, but I'm not in the middle of nowhere either, and I'm so protected. We're so protected from that ordinary everyday life that happens, or most of us are, I think, anyway. But you aren't. You're at the raw end, aren't you? I mean, like you were saying, the joy of helping the goats birth, but then the sorrow and sadness when they don't make it, or the old ones have to go through, whatever they have to go through. And it must change you, I would say, quite substantially. So do you feel different to how you were when you were living in Long Island and living like the sort of normal kind of life that many of us live these days?
Yes. And that's where I came to realize that I was not separate from this. That what is actually normal, ordinary life for animals, for the farmer, to so many of us is extraordinary, and we can't imagine. So it did change me. It changed what I thought that I was capable of, what I was able to accomplish. Those times where I was on the floor and I got myself back up. Times where there's physical work, there's cold work, there's when you're out there in 38-degree weather, feels like 32, and you're washing litter boxes with a hose. And I come up to the cabin and cry because my hands are frozen, also is empowering to me, and that I can accomplish things that I set myself to, even if I think that maybe I can't. I found when I try and try again, it comes. One of the things that I also found up here was it can be very isolating. It can get lonely. It was just us. Our family's not here. We weren't getting to be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor. We're exhausted. It's not always easy to be by yourself, and that's where Silver Tent, Silver Synergy was huge for me. I mean, it gave me a place to reach out and connect with other women, especially. So it's, I'm pretty comfortable with myself, and it's easy for me to be alone, and it's wonderful for people to be able to be with themselves that's also difference between isolation and the ability and the need to be able to reach out, to have a network, a community, so that you're not doing all this alone.
Wow, I really am quite fascinated. I wasn't expecting to ask this question, but just that sense of the isolation, the being comfortable with yourself, but also that point that can shift over into isolation. Did you find that life was just the same as usual during all the lockdowns? Because, I mean, that actually probably came, if it was quite handy then, I guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, for us, life kind of stayed the same. And if anything, it was a little easier for me because I was having everything shipped in from my local grocery store and from Amazon. And I didn't have to leave the mountain. I loved it. Like it was, you know, but even that, you know, you got to the point where the isolation did, you know, isolation's isolation, whether it's, you know, in a lockdown situation or because of your lifestyle. So, yeah, that's always a fine line to walk, but yeah, everything kind of stayed the same here. The goats had no idea COVID was happening. And they still, you know, wanted everything they wanted.
So I do have to ask, because I don't, it's not coming across as idyllic, but there's that romantic sense is that, oh, a homestead and a rescue center, and you know, and until you're in it, I think it's easy to think, oh, I'd handle that, I'd handle that, I'd handle that. And I just wonder, in the whole time from when you first decided to actually leave Long Island, like actually leave.
Actually, it was actually Pennsylvania, but
Oh,
yeah.
right, Pennsylvania. To actually leave that life and start anew. What do you feel's been the biggest challenge of all?
Believing that I could really make this happen. Like there was, you know, that first year where I was like on vacation. It was wonderful. And like every day I woke up and I felt like I was at this cabin rental and I was on vacation. And then we got the goats. And once we got the goats, everything changed. So, yeah, I think that, yeah, I don't know. I don't
So
know.
it's interesting because I would have thought, so I made up in my mind that it might be when an animal dies and that you haven't been able to save. So I would have, that's where I went in, like, no, no, to be something about that, or to be something about money, and it's not. That's really interesting.
No, it wasn't. Those were all situations, issues, circumstance. But it really came down to what was I willing to do? What was I willing to sacrifice? What was I, you know, what ledge was I willing to step out on, to even see? I needed to see. So it was that big moment where, over the last months, where I said, no, I think I can do this. I think I can do this. And until I really was in the, oh, I'm doing this, you know, like I'm doing this. I don't have any choice now. You know, animals need to eat and be cleaned and you know, but believing that I could actually achieve a new model of community rescue, of offering a place of retreat for people, for women to come and experience something that they've not experienced before, till I got to that place where I really believed I can do this. And if something happens that it doesn't work, well, it wasn't because I wasn't willing to take the risk.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, but you do take risks, don't you? The whole adventure is a risk, isn't it? Really, from beginning to end, I guess.
It is. It is, and it's all risky. It's risky physically. It's risky emotionally. It's risky financially. There are a lot of risks in it. For me, the biggest risk was not taking the risk to see.
Wow, wow. That's such a powerful thing, isn't it? That if that's all we take home with us today from this interview, is that the biggest risk is not to do it at all.
And realizing that that reaching out, for me, again, a pivotal moment. Once you reach out, something opens and you receive what you need. It just, that's the magic. The magic is, just putting yourself out there and asking, saying, I need some help. Even if it's just, allowing me to vent. God loves Steffi. I've cried in Messenger to her several times. A safe place, especially for someone like me who's out in the middle of nowhere. So yeah, but that's where the magic really happened, is in the, I'm going to do this. And I know that I can't do it alone. I can't do it alone.
Can you just hold on one moment, because my dog is trying to dig up my sofa.
So is mine.
Oh, actually, no, she's trying to dig up the chair. Fiona. No, stop. I don't know if you can hear it in the background.
Well, so is mine, right here in the corner with his ball.
How wonderful. So that sense of even though basically you have to do it alone, but that being having a community that you can reach out into, even though we're online. I mean, you're talking a lot about the silver tent here, but we're online, aren't we? So the fact that can have such a profound level of support is just amazing.
The energy of who and what we are, when you're being supported, that energy, that love comes, it comes. And again, that's the magic, that's the magic. I think we create together. That's the magic.
So can you share some of the magic that you've experienced, not just recently, but actually throughout the whole venture? Because I have this idea that the more that we follow our hearts, come what may, that real deep calling, really deep calling, you know what I mean. I don't mean like I really fancy a chocolate ice cream kind of love, but that real deep, like you said, that you're compelled. I have this idea that the more that we follow that sense of being compelled, I think we open up to magic. When we don't know how, and we don't care about, well, clearly we care about how, but we don't focus on the how. We just focus on what it is that we love. I often find that magic happens, and I wonder if that's your experience.
Yes. Once I held that first goat, that was that was a magical moment. I've also realized, like, through this, that was always a part of me. Like, even as a child, like I lived in North Carolina as a 19-year-old, married, to a Marine, and the neighbor woman and I would go around the neighborhood. It was very rural, and there was all these, we'd walk and there would be all these dogs, and we would gather them and feed them and take all the ticks and fleas off of them. And I thought, you know what, it's always been a part of me. And that in itself is part of the magic, you know, recognizing what has always been who you are and then stepping into that. And, you know, coming across the cabin the way we did. When at the last one of the last things I did when I was at the Spiritual Formation Center was I created, I don't know, like a vision board of sorts, of a vision that I had in my head. And I'm not that kind of artist. But so much of that is that cabin that kept showing up in my searches. And there were things like, there was a little mountain in the top of it. And I didn't know what that was about. I really wasn't anticipating going to a mountain. That was not my intention per se. I was just looking for some property. And sure enough, I'm, you know, at a place called Sand Mountain. I mean, you know, I kind of wanted, you know, to really go to the beach, but, you know, that wasn't workable, but I did get sand, you know, like, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. And, you know, magic happens when you save an animal, you know, that moment where, you know, you realize this animal is gonna make it, when I really thought that it would not. The magic of, you know, winning a year membership to Silver Synergy, you know, like when you start being true to what it is you are, yeah, it opens up for the magic to be created. And again, I'm finding that you know, magic is a co-creation. The magician can't do magic without his audience, you know, without his tools of illusion. And so it's always a co-creation. And I think that's a real component to community and, you know, support and women and wisdom and who we are as a silver community, especially.
Wow. I love that idea that magic is a co-creation, and you know, how beautiful that is, that it's not a solo practice. And I just wanted to ask, when you said about when you held your first goat, it's like, what did that feel like? I just wondered, did that feel like coming home?
It did. I you know, bottle fed those babies. They were just, you know, a day old, and you know, I'm a mother. I am a nurturer. It was, it felt like the right thing. There were moments that summer as they were escaping, and because I didn't know how much goats escaped, and I'm walking around in my shorts and it's raining, and I'm, you know, straddling these little goats, and I got the worst case of like poison sumac or oak, and you know, like you know, it's a learning curve, but it's all part of the adventure, you know, when you read the great adventure stories, you know, as the quest goes, there's lots of peril and the risks and the villains, and you know, somewhere at the end is that chalice that waits for us.
Wow. So shall we move into the new retreat project? Is this a good time to introduce that, do you think? You've alluded to it a little bit throughout the interview, but this is a relatively new idea, isn't it? A relatively new project, or is this something that you've had for a while?
I've thought for a little while that I would like to offer retreats for women to experience homestead life. And, you know, for someone who's never mucked a a stall, or collected eggs, or wrangled a goat, or it could be quite an experience depending on the season. There could be babies being born, or milking to be done, or lots to experience. So it is something that I've been thinking about. Silver Synergy gave me the space to explore that a little more, and the reality of how that could come to be, with the rescue as a part of that retreat as well. So sometime at the first week of October, we're planning a retreat, Love Made Manifest, a homestead experience. Details will follow over the next week or so. But I think that what is experienced here is magic. And I would love to be able to share my own future visions, and how to manifest your own dreams and visions.
So what kind of thing can they expect to learn on your retreat?
So pasture rotation, and what good poop looks like, and how we really have to work with the sunrise and the sunset and the seasons, and canning, and how to bottle feed a baby goat. What goats need to eat. A lot of people think we hear goats are, they eat everything, and just because they sometimes do doesn't mean they should. There's lots of things that goats should not eat. And how we live with the animals, and that, again, we're really not the ones in control here. We're not really the ones in control.
That's very interesting. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
When you take on animals that have to be dependent on you, there's just certain things that have to be done every day, 24/7, 365 days a year, rain, snow, cold, heat, and they know that they can count on us. They know that we're not going to leave them hang. And so in that sense, they have a control over us that they are aware of, that they are aware of. They know they can call, and we're going to come. You learn to know the sound of a distress call. They know we're going to come.
That's really interesting, because I hadn't thought of it like that before. But I was caring for my mum for 3 years until she passed, and I was the carer, and she was definitely the one in control. There is no doubt. I mean, even to the point where I couldn't have my own train of thought. Towards the end, it was like just all mum. I just was unable to put my attention elsewhere. It was extraordinary. And so I really get what you're saying, because you're in a caring capacity, aren't you? And amazing, absolutely. Yes. Amazing. And I love the idea that part of the gift of being on the retreat is not just the learning about the homestead And I'm sure everybody's thinking, oh, I want to feed a baby goat. That's just got to be an incredibly gorgeous thing to do. But the fact that they will have an opportunity to start exploring what they would love, to be in that environment where you've created that completely from an initial visualization and this sense of being compelled. And I've got another question that's coming, but I think that sounds really magical, to be able to have those two things. It's not that they have to want to live on a homestead. It's just that experience is the container, the crucible for finding what their heart would really love. And I really get how they're going to learn that even is it just for a week, the retreat, or are you doing it for longer than that?
No, I'm thinking like a four day, a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. But even in that short time, I'm sure that people will experience a different level of understanding their own resourcefulness and resilience. You know, I spent 4 months over the wettest, wildest winter on record in Wales on my own, off grid. Nothing like running a homestead and a rescue centre. Okay, I get that. But by the time I came out the other side, I felt resourceful and resilient in a way that I hadn't before. And I think that just finding that out in that kind of environment would be amazing. And I'd love to come myself at some point. I don't think I can do this year, but I will be there at some point, Debbie. I've got to. It just only makes sense. I know that you're not going to find it very easy to come over here. But yeah, the question that's still sort of been fizzing a little in my head is I know that the visualization that you initially received was more around the homestead and goats, but do you feel kind of chosen for the rescue in a way, because it seemed to be kind of accidental almost?
Yes, I do. And I said that, you know, the universe like kind of threw that one and said, hey, by the way, was thinking maybe. And yes, and many were waiting for me to get over it, let it run through her system. There's no way in hell she's going to be able to maintain this. And there's those moments, you know, when we had the big polar bomb this winter, like with the coldest temperatures ever, where, you know, the water was freezing, like coming out of the faucets, and you know, we needed to get water to the animals. I still needed to take care of those rescue animals and make sure that they were warm and that their water wasn't freezing. And, you know, it's in those moments where you think, I didn't think that I could do this. And yet, when you have to do it, you will do it, especially for the love of. And yes, I do. I feel like that's why I could not just quit, that I would do it whatever it took. And pretty much once I had determined that, things started to flow a little bit differently.
Wow. So you've been there 8 years?
We've been here 6 years this June. I've been doing the rescue 2 years next month. July 8th is our 2-year anniversary. And it's almost hard for me to believe that it's only 2 years, because so much has happened in 2 years that I could never have even fathomed. I just couldn't have fathomed. And for me, it's been such a time of growth and knowing, getting to remember who I am, and being committed to the purpose,
And I know that once you've got the retreats up and running and maybe doing some Airbnb, that's going to take some of the financial pressure off you. But you can never guarantee any of those, can you? It's never going to be, I guess, 52 weeks of the year. And anyway, could you do that? So it seems to me that there is always that level of requirement that there is a cash flow in, not just a cash flow out. And so for those people who've watched, who are really inspired by your story and your passion, and yes, your story and your passion, what can they do to help?
What people can do is go to the Mastering Love Rescue page here on Facebook. Hopefully we're going to be expanding into other areas, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all those things that I haven't really been up on. But just going to the Facebook page, liking us, and watching to see what's going on, sharing us. The more exposure we can get. Our supporters have been pretty good about, when we have a need of making sure we have food, making sure we have litter, making sure we have hay. And yet we always need more. There's cost for vetting, which is so expensive. And, we here in the States can get our low cost clinics, but, you're looking at $60 to $70 per cat. There's gas to transport, there's electric to keep the fans and the cooling and the heating in the winter and keep them cool in the summer, cleaning supplies, just, the things that we don't always think about. Paper towels, like, oh my goodness, we go through paper towels, litter boxes, they don't last forever. So there's just so many things that we need, that people can always go to the website, to the page and see.
So all the information of how they can donate is on the Facebook page, Mastering Love.
Yes. On most of my posts, I have the links. Haven't quite figured out a place to make a spot where those are all the time. I'm sure maybe somebody can tell me, and will. But yes, always on the page, I put the links in the post for the day. I usually try to post every day. Just sending us energy and love and prayers and sharing. And like I said, it means so much to me, but so much more for the animals that make their way to us. Every animal that's come to us was in dire need. Right now we have 30 plus cats and kittens here on the homestead. That's not including the sanctuary cats. Homestead, the cats that can't quite go to a home, that need to be outside. There's a need. So any support that we can get financially, donations, but again, the love and the shares are hugely important as well.
Wow. So we would love people to get in touch with you if they're watching this on in the Silver Tent on Facebook, to put in the comments if you're interested in principle in coming to your first retreat in October in Georgia in the US. to let Debbie know if you're interested in supporting financially in any way. So I've chosen to donate a little bit every month on the 1st of every month. And I reckon I'm looking after one leg of your goat that only has 3 legs, who you've nicknamed Tripod. And we all absolutely love Tripod. So if anybody wants to do something like that too, then to get in touch with you, Debbie, and to go along to your Facebook page and make sure that you like the page and you share the page, and let's really see how this silver community and beyond can really support this incredible journey and adventure and project.
And anybody can message me, private message me, and I'll respond.
That's so wonderful. So we've just got 3 minutes left. So I just wonder if you've got something that you can say to those who are watching, who have longed to follow their heart, but are either waiting for the right time or something. What words of encouragement might you give them?
Be brave. Step out. Just begin to see it. Take some time to, however you process, visualize it, write it, dream about it, talk about it, start sharing it. Thought, word, deed. And it'll, don't quit. Don't be afraid to love yourself enough to reach out for your heart's passion.
That's so lovely. And I think sometimes there's an element of being stubborn, isn't there? Like, you know, when I did my little thing, when I went 4 months into the yurt over winter, and quite a few people who I knew quite well really didn't think I'd make it through the winter. That's one winter, not that big a deal. And I wondered, my confidence was like, well, I'm saying I'm going to make it, but if they think that I'm not, maybe I won't. But they didn't realize how very stubborn I can be. And I think you sound the same as well, but it's like you're committed to this, and you're committed in a way because your heart is compelled. It's not like a have to with that element of resentment. It's like I have to because this is what I love above all else. So can you imagine actually ever doing something different?
Not right now. Not right now. And I did. I risked it all. I really did. I don't think there was any other way.
Debbie, it's been a complete and utter treat to talk with you today. And thank you so much for sharing an hour of your incredibly valuable time. Like, I know that you don't have time where you're sitting on a sofa with your feet up thinking, I wonder what I'll do for the afternoon.
I'd love to read a book in a day.
Keep us posted with photographs like you're doing, and maybe we can catch up with you in 6 months' time and see how you're getting on again. And
That would be wonderful.
Brilliant.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.